Hi. NoelleConnolly, Head of Local Services. There are a few people here that know me today and will know that I am terrified of assistive technology, number one, and I'm terrified of public speaking, number two, so your patience is appreciated. Hopefully this will go smoothly. As I say, I'm Head of Local Services. My background is in teaching. I taught for years with children with severe emotional behaviour difficulties, and I then became a teaching principal in a high support unit. I joined the NCSE when I started up in 2004 as a CNO, worked for several years as a CNO, and then moved into the position of senior CNO for a number of years. That brought me right up to September last year when I took on this position of Head of Local Services. And it was a brand new post. So it's been developing throughout the year, but very interesting post, and I'm delighted to be here today with you all. And I'll talk to you a bit about how that post fits into the whole NCSE working of things as we go along. Shay did a very comprehensive talk there on the SNA scheme, and I will be repeating some of the things he said, so please, your patience, but I just need to when I'm talking about how we work the system on the ground. And just before we start, I would like to acknowledge the anxiety and stress for parents around their young child with special education needs joining school, particularly when you get a new diagnosis and you're looking at them going to school in junior infants, and oh my God, how is he going to manage? How is she going to manage? What resources? What is due? We acknowledge that anxiety. And along with that anxiety, the anxiety around access to an SNA is the biggest one, and we do acknowledge that. So I'll fire ahead and just talk about how we work the scheme. The first slide, I'm just talking about generally the role of the NCSE, so you see where the SNA scheme fits into it. We were set up to improve the delivery of educational services to persons with special education needs arising from disabilities. So that was why we were set up. You guys are the judge of how we are doing that or what we are achieving along the way. How do we do it? We have 70 special education needs organisers throughout the country. The country is divided into 9 areas with 9 senior CNOs, and they would manage teams between 6 and 12 CNOs. And then myself came in, as I say, a year ago as Head of Local Services to manage that cohort of people. And I also have a number of people working to me in head office for admin support. The overall role of the CNO. It's quite a big role, and I just want to let you know again where the SNA supports fits into it. What we're known for is processing applications. Okay, that's the first thing that a parent wants to know. How do I get these supports for my kid? Get the CNO, get the application in. It's a big role. It's a very, very important role, and we take it very seriously. There are 4 main areas where we process applications. Resource teaching hours. You'll know, those of you that are in the system, there are 2 ways of getting teaching hours for your child. It's either through the general allocation model, where each school will have a number of teachers to look after children with special education needs. Children with more complex needs then, or a low incidence disability as we call it, well, an application will come to us for extra hours for those children. And we have the new proposed model, as Shay mentioned earlier, and I know that was talked about last year, so I won't go into it now. So resource teaching teaching hours is the first thing. The second thing is the SNA supports, which we're interested in talking about today. The third thing is assistive technology. So assistive technology applications come to us from the school with the application form, the report, and what assistive technology is required for the child, and then we make a recommendation to the department. That goes through to the department, and they make the decision on the allocation of resources there. Transport, again, transport to the nearest school to provide for your child's needs. So if your child is going to a special school, special class, needs transport, that comes to us, and we send a report into the department, and again they will make a decision around that. So that's the 4 main resourcing parts to our role. Along with that, we have we have to plan a continuum of support for children with special educational needs. So there are three options for your child. There's the mainstream with supports, there's special schools, and there's special classes. The supports for mainstream is our main focus today. We'll be looking at that, and for special classes. Where special schools are concerned, we're looking at the increase in size in special schools. So if there are more people coming in, the special school will come to us and say we need more teachers, we need more space, and we've also got to look at the setting up of new special schools. And there are a lot of developing areas where a need has been identified for new special schools. So that'll be part of our role as well, to feed into the department around that. Special classes, it's the setting up and the running of the special classes. And as Shay mentioned earlier, the increase in special classes throughout the country has been enormous. We opened up something like, I think it was approximately 150 this year. And so it's our responsibility to look at a need in the area, locate a school that is willing and able to open a special class, whether it's for autism, moderate learning disability, physical, whatever the diagnosed disability. We cannot insist that a school opens a special class. So in some areas, there's lots of schools who have lots of space and are very willing to open a special class. There are other areas where no, there's a barrier there. And that is an issue. That is an issue for some parents in areas if there is a lack of support. But we're working with the schools to try an acknowledgement of that. Another part of our role is, and a big part of our role, is developing links with other agencies such as the HSE, NEPS, TUSLA, the Inspectorate, the Department, yourselves, National Parents Council, linking into information for parents. And most of you might have met Andrew outside. He's become sort of an annual fixture at these, where he has all our pamphlets and information, and I'm pointing towards our website. And we also, over the past couple of years, have developed parental information sessions for parents of children that are starting primary school the following year, where we'll invite parents to come in, and as I know, we'll talk through all the signposts for your child for starting school. And the last thing I've down there is the working groups policy and research. And this is really important. I know Shay mentioned the policy department and research department in the NCSE, but it's important that we are part of working groups feeding into that, because the CNOs are the people on the ground that are talking to you guys, that are talking to the teachers, that are talking to the SNAs, that will see the children and will know the children. So we can feed that on the ground information up through the policy and research. So that's really important. The next part, the main item, as I say, is processing SNA applications. Okay, I'll just talk through the process, basically what happens on the ground. A parent, you have a professional report for your child, diagnosing a special educational need or a medical need. And the report will outline what your child's needs are. It may be educational needs, purely educational needs, that's fine, that goes through to the resource teaching application. If the report outlines that your child has significant care needs, and they will need access to an SNA, the professional will then have to say, why? What does the child need an SNA for? Is it to organise their books? That won't get an SNA. Is it to organise their bag for going home with their homework? No, that won't get them an SNA. Now, that may be part of an SNA's role once the SNA does come into the classroom, but it won't trigger the access to an SNA. So that part is very important. I'll talk you through the application form now in a second. So you have your professional report. The first thing you do is you bring it to the school. You talk to the principal or the special needs coordinator to look at what are your child's needs. So rather than thinking, oh my God, I have this report, I have to now get a full-time SNA for my child, I've got to get 5 hours resource, this is really intense. You just go to the school with your professional report, sit down and look at it with them, how they can help your child, what they can manage, what they can't manage. If they're saying there are things in the school that they can't manage, if you want your child educated here, there's going to have to be more supports for their care needs outside the role of the teacher. that a teacher could not manage this when managing a class of 30. That's fine. Then you decide with the school, okay, let's apply for SNA access. It's quite a big decision. So, like, that's what I really want to emphasise. When this is the form from the school, and it's 3 pages long, and here, 4 pages long actually, and you're sort of going, oh my God, more bureaucracy. But it's a really important step for your child if you're looking for SNA access. So really think it through. What is the SNA for? And how much access do you want your child to have? Do you want somebody with your child all day? Maybe that's needed. Do you want, as Shay said, break times, coming in and out? Like secondary school children will find an SNA access very difficult, particularly if it's behavioural or they've autism, whatever. They don't need an adult following them around the school. So you've got to be really careful with the school as to what you're filling in this form and what you want for your child. Once you have decided with the school, yes, this is the needs, and the school is saying, yes, we will need SNA support for your child. You fill in the form, the school fills in the form for you. You make sure to read everything the school has put on the form. That's really important. I have to say that, rather than just signing the form and letting them do it. Be very careful about what they're writing down about your child. So the form will come, your report will come. That will come to the CNO, and the CNO will then have to go through the whole process of seeing, does your child qualify for access or not. Oh God, oh yeah, here we are. The CNO will then examine the application form and the professional reports. So this is the office-based part of the job. So what are we looking for? You're looking at the application. Is there a diagnosis of a disability or medical condition? That's the first thing. If it is such that your little guy is actually going through an assessment at the moment, through early intervention or whatever, that there may have been flagged that your child could have a diagnosis of autism or an intellectual disability or whatever, that's no good until we get the actual diagnosis of the disability or the medical condition, such as diabetes, epilepsy. The next thing we're looking for in the report is the recommendation for adult or SNA support and for the care needs. So you may have a professional who might just write out the whole report of the needs of your child, the educational needs, and at the bottom and say, you know, Mary requires a full-time SNA, full stop. We'll be saying, oh, why? What for? What are the care needs? So we'd have to go back and say, so they haven't told us that there are any care needs. So it's just from your point of view, you need to be thinking of these things. So the care needs need to be listed, and the frequency and extent of the care needs. So it could be, like as Shay mentioned earlier, your little guy might have toileting issues. So he'll need to be toileted at different times of the day. It could be that he's very anxious at different times of the day and needs to be removed from the classroom for space. There are different ways an SNA can work, and by and large, with the experienced SNAs working with the teachers, it works very, very well. In most places it works really well. That gone are the days of where there's somebody sitting beside your child all day. The school then will give a plan for supporting the care needs and promoting independence. And this is the PPP that Shay was talking about earlier, the personal pupil plan. And that's in the circular. It's laid out in the circular, and we're at the moment looking at how schools are going to actually process this plan. NPCS have launched over the past couple of years the student file within the school. So NPCS are working with the school, so every child with a special education need should have a file in the school with all the details of the IEP, the report, the plans, and the personal pupil plan will fit into that, will eventually fit into that, but that will be purely around your child's care needs. So if they have toileting needs in junior infants, they may have no toileting needs in third class. Great. Do you know what I mean? But that will be developed and looked at every year. That's really important. The behavioural care needs, the BCN1, sorry, I jumped on too quick there, and go back. If your child is in school already and there are behavioural needs, I don't know if any of you have come up against this, the BCN1 form. It's a behavioural care needs form. So it used to be your child went in September. A lot of children will start in junior entrance, and it's only then that maybe the extent of their special need comes to the fore, as they're asked to go in and sit down in a class of 30, and it's like, whew. So that, and that can be very difficult. But if it's behavioural needs, what we're saying to schools now is, don't just immediately apply for an SNA because the child has behavioural needs. Look at what you can do for the child first. You don't want the first thing to happen to your child that they're one sat down in the back corner with another adult colouring in or something. This has happened in the past. I'd be very surprised if it happens now, but look, it could. So you don't want the responsibility of the school just to be, look, there's the SNA, and the SNA is responsible for your child's behaviour. So that's where the NPCS continuum of support comes in, and they work very closely with schools on this. And you can ask schools about it. You can say, have you implemented the continuum of support? How are you working with my child to alleviate the behavioural difficulties? The school will record all the instances of maybe very serious instances throughout the day and throughout the year or the weeks for your child. They look at the extent of it. They look at, have they worked with the NPCS continuum? Have they actually really tried to address the behavioural difficulties? And they're not going to be addressed through half an hour of maths a day or half an hour of English with the resource teacher. That might help them if they're behind in English and maths, but the behavioural difficulties will need a different way of working. If it's such then that this is all recorded and really it's not working, the child is more and more anxious, the behaviours are escalating, they need more help, that's when we will come in and look and see, is SNA access required? And it may be required for a short time, just to help with the implementation of a behaviour plan. Because in fairness, if you're a teacher and you could be the best teacher in the world and you have 30 little guys in front of you and one of them has severe behavioural difficulties and you are looking at a behaviour plan, you may need a second adult in the school to help with that. But it's just to keep in mind the reason the SNA is being applied for. So we're looking for all this stuff, and then the next thing is the access word. And this has caused a lot of consternation around the country. We're getting this a lot. What does this mean, my child has access? It says in the report my child has to have an SNA for themselves. I want it written down that this child is for myself. I know where the parent's coming from. I know the anxiety that's coming with that. Because if you're told my child has access, what does that mean? Is somebody going to look after him at lunchtime? Is he going to be left on his own for half the day? What does it mean? And this is where the discussion with the school and the CNO is really, really important. So if all the boxes are ticked as I talked on the page beforehand, the CNO will say, OK, this child qualifies for access to SNA support. That's the first thing. The school will be informed, yes, Mary will have access to SNA support. So what happens next? That's grand, your child's on a list for access. What does that mean? Like, what happens next? What we're looking at then is the overall school allocation. So your child, and Shane mentioned earlier that we're looking at an annualised process, and we'll talk about that later. So the CNO gets the application in for your child. They go through all the paperwork. They may go out and see the child. Quite often that will happen. They'll go out and see the child, either in their preschool or in school if they're already in school, and have a look. Sometimes that it's not necessary. You know, if the reports are so obvious, it's not necessary. But by and large, we like to meet the children. Then the CNO will have to review the overall school allocation. So if a school has 5 SNAs, say, for 12 children, and your child joins, and you're going to be the 13th child. So you'll say to the school, yes, Mary definitely qualifies, and you have 5 SNAs there already, and the school might say, Christ, Noelle, we're not going to be able to manage with that. This child's needs are so significant. Can we relook at our allocation? And that's where we will go in and do a full school review and look at the needs of all the children. And when you do a review, it became a point, I don't know if it's still there, I know even when I was reviewing schools, where the school were going, oh my God, the CNO's coming out today to do a review, you know, Christ, crash helmets, like it was really severe. And, you know, and you're coming out, you know, to look at the kids and look at the allocation, and you're sort of, everybody's scared of you. So it's, you know, you have to sort of try and explain what we're doing and why we're doing it. It's just to make sure that all the kids are looked after properly. That's the point. The types of reviews we do, sometimes we'll just do a desk review. So you're on to the principal and you're saying, okay, you have 5 SNAs, this little guy's coming in. You probably have leeway because, like, Johnny's much better there. And the principal will say, no, we can look after him. We can look after Noelle. That's fine. That's grand. You may have to go out to a school visit and discuss and go through all the applications with the principal. You may go out and just do a targeted review during the year of the kids that are in maybe 5th and 6th class, thinking they've had SNA support since junior infants. Do these guys still need it? If they do, that's fine, but if they don't, let them off, let them prepare, let them get their independence for secondary school. And then there's the full review, where you're actually going and visiting every child with SNA access within the school. And that's then when you go back and you discuss it with the principal, and you, at the end of the day, the decision is the CNO's. And it's a very hard decision to make, I'll be honest with you. Because, and as part of that, you may have discussions with the parents, the teacher, the SNAs themselves. Very important to get their point of view. The professionals, sometimes NEPs will attend a review meeting. You've got to gather all the information, and you've got to make a decision that ensures the care needs of all the children are looked after adequately. And you can't do it going, we love all the children, we want everybody to have so much access. You just can't do that. You also can't do it by, what is the cost of all these SNAs going to be? You've got to be really, really focused and make sure you're looking after all the care needs of all the children adequately. But people have got to trust that we can do that, and we've got to be able to talk it through. You can have one school where you have 2 SNAs for 4 children. You could have a school down the road that has 2 SNAs for 6 children. You might say, I want to go to that school. I don't want to go to that school. It's the same CNO making the decision. It's the different levels of care needs that we're looking at. And that will inform our decision. How am I doing for time?
Got 15 minutes.
Okay. After this, then, the school will receive the overall allocation, because as Shane mentioned earlier, the allocation is to the school. So now it's taken a really step back from saying, like when we started off in the job, it was, okay, Johnny can have a full time, Mary can have half a post, you know, Keith can have 3/4 of a post. It just couldn't possibly have worked. We couldn't have kept going that way. So when the allocation now is to the school, you'll discuss with the school. You might say you have 2 full-time posts. You have a junior post for looking after your junior infants, and maybe there's another half a post for little Johnny, who really, you know, he really has a meltdown every lunchtime and a break time, and we need somebody to look at that. So that's what you're giving to the school. So you could give 2 full-time posts, a junior post, and a 0.5 post. Then it's up to the school how they look after the kids. And there are some days when some kids will take full support. There are some days when kids will be having a really bad day and they will need full support. There are other days when they don't. So the school and the teachers will manage that with the SNA cohort. So that's why I have down the school's plan for deployment and timetabling of SNAs to ensure that the needs of all the students are met. We don't always get it right, guys, but we try, and we're still trying, reviewing every year how we do our job. Annualised allocation, this was mentioned earlier. Moving towards the annualised allocation. So you'll have seen us will be out in schools now, well not today, but as we speak, from now to Christmas they're going to be visiting, they're going to be reviewing schools. And the whole idea is they'll go, and if they've 10 children on SNA support, they're going out to see how are the kids doing. Are they okay with their support? Are things working? Are some of the care needs diminished? Can we look at that? So they'll be flagging to the principal, actually there's 3 kids there and they're grand. Do you know, they don't need it anymore. Well, we bring in mummy and daddy and talk through and see, can we reduce that or remove it? So that's the sort of thing we're doing from now, so that when the applications all come in March, April, May, we're looking at the new application. So I can say in my head, okay, that school is 4 SNAs, but 2 of the kids are grand and maybe 2 more are leaving. And you've got to work that out with the school and then look at the new children coming in and how they fit into that. So as part of our application process, we've lots of forms, by the way, but it's just to give you an idea of the use of them. Like the school will give us every year confirmation of leavers. So if you've 10 kids accessing the SNA, 3 of them are on this, well immediately that's going to be an adjustment in the SNA support. It's not a cutback. It's a reduction in the SNA support. That support may go into, as Shay said, the secondary school, or else it'll go into new kids starting off in junior infants. That's the school's bit that they have to do. The other bit that the schools have to do is every time they send in an application and they're looking at allocation throughout the school, they've got to fill in a school summary report where they list all the children, what access they have, what the care needs are, how they're doing, and we can work with that to look at projecting the allocation for the following year. And as part of that, when the personal pupil plan kicks off properly, it'll be very easy to track the care needs, and parents need to be very involved with that. The other one that I meant to show you earlier was the BCN1 form, another form, but this one is for the school, and it's where, and this actually is really important. You sign this, it's really important if you have a child with behavioural needs that you look at what the school are saying, look at what's happening and what they're sending to us. That's really important. So at the end of that, the allocation for the year will be given to the school. A lot of SNAs, we give out a lot of SNAs this year. They were all needed, they were all warranted, we can stand over that. We have a certain number now we're looking at to get through exceptional cases. And what does that mean? They're coming into us now at the moment. So there are 3 categories that we look at during the year then. The first one is if a school has no SNA allocation. Well, that's obvious. If a child goes in with care needs and there's no SNA allocation, that school has to get an SNA. So they're top of the list. If the enrolment in a special class has increased, so if you have an autism class which takes 6 children, a teacher and 2 SNAs, the school gets 1 SNA for 3 children. If the 4th children comes in, then they get the 2nd SNA. That's what we call the CERC allocation. That has to happen. The third one is where a critical situation has arisen in the school due to a very exceptional case. So you could have a new child coming to the school from somewhere else that has exceptional needs that we have to look at. Now, they could be moving from one school to another, so you're talking about reducing the SNA support where they came from and increasing the SNA support. It's that sort of balancing act that you have to do. If a child, God forbid, has an accident or is on extreme medical treatment, these are things, if the school can show us that really access is not enough at this stage, it's critical that more support is needed, then we go out and do a full school review and look at that. But it's quite exceptional during the year. Okay, I'm going to finish now shortly. The last one is important points that I just want to emphasise to you. A school cannot refuse enrolment of a pupil on the basis of resourcing. They can't do it. They are doing it. They are doing it. But you have to be able to say, you can't do that. You can take a Section 29 against that school. But you need to contact your CNO about that and discuss it. Because the child must enrol the child, the school must enrol the child and then apply for resources. So if a school applies to me for an SNA for a child, and this child isn't even in the school, and the school is saying, we haven't enrolled them yet until you process this, I'm saying, sure, I can't do that. The child must be enrolled first, and then we will look at the application. But I know it's difficult when you're the parent going to the school, and I was talking to somebody before we came in about this, you know, if you feel those barriers to your kid, do you want to be the one to fight the fight? Do you want to be the one who says, wait a minute, you can't do that? Somebody has to do it. And what you usually find once the child is in, and the fear from the school, because it is a lack of awareness, is gone, it can work. But just remember that. The school cannot refuse your child because of disability. They cannot, by law, do that. Ensure, and the third point, I think Shay stressed this a lot as well, ensure your SNA applications for your children are based on the primary care needs, not educational needs, not on the learning needs. Just be careful that the school are not just ticking the box because your child has a learning difficulty. That's a resource. Okay, that's the teacher's role. That's their job. The SNAs do amazing jobs. They're not the teachers. Be careful of that and monitor that your child is being taught by a teacher and their care needs are being looked after by the SNA. That's really, really important. Because if you have a child comes into a school with severe needs, maybe very complex needs, and they have an SNA and the school says, that's grand. Now, again, I'm back down to the child in the corner with the SNA. You want to be worried about that, because that's not inclusion. So the SNA can be there to work with the class teacher, but the child should be here, and with other children, and working with other children. And it's just really important that you inform yourself about that when you're visiting the school. The last thing I have here is talk to your CNO, and I have that in bold, and it was said to me, Noelle, are you mad saying that? But each CNO, like you could have, in Dublin you might have an average of 40 schools. Down the country you could have 70 schools. So keep in your head, this is our workloads, and then the amount of children that you have and that. But it is our job to be there for parents. It is our job, and we try. We mightn't always get back to you that day or the next day, but please persevere, because it's really important that we're there to talk to you, particularly when your child is starting school. Because sometimes if a parent gets on the phone, and you could talk to them for 30-40 minutes sometimes, but by the end of it, if the anxiety is alleviated and they knew the process and they know what to look for, it's worth it. So that's really important. Now, again, I don't want the message out there that every parent of special needs lifts the phone on Monday morning, because I will be run out of town by my CNOs. But it's just when there's a difficulty, or when you visit a school and you're not happy, your child has resources, they have special needs assistant access, and you're not happy, there's something not sitting well with you, you can ring your CNO and talk it through. There are small things a CNO can say, look, that actually, I'm sorry, I can't help you there, that is the school's responsibility. They will only do that when they're clear that is the school's responsibility. But there are other times when parents have rung me and I've said, okay, we'll talk it through. I'll tell you what, let's have a meeting in the school. And this is when things are really scary, out of control. Let's have a meeting in the school. And they'll say, God, Noelle, can you do that? I don't want the school to know I rang you. That's mad. Schools must know that that's what we're there for. And be very clear on that. And the message needs to go out there that parents can ask the school, who is my local CNO actually? Can I invite my local CNO to this meeting? Now, your local CNO might say, Jesus, I have 10 meetings on over the next fortnight. I'm not going to be able to make that one. Can we talk it through on the phone? Or they may say, okay, that's really serious. I'll help you with that. So I'm not saying there's going to be an automatic meeting every time you lift the phone, but you do need to get it out there. That's our role, to talk to parents and to support you in any way we can. I hope that's helpful. I know I'm going to stop now because I know that there might be a load of questions in those boxes. Are there, Anya? Thanks very much.